10 reasons to visit Edinburgh Castle. Since the beginning of time, Edinburgh Castle has been a dominant feature of the city's stunning scenery, earning its reputation as one of the most recognisable monuments in all of Scotland. This past year, the castle was visited by a record-breaking 1.7 million people, which means that its storied history is on display for everyone to see. Or is it? Here are 10 compelling reasons to pay a visit to this well-known castle. 1. The fortress is perched above a volcano. However, there is no need to be concerned, since the volcanic eruption that was responsible for the formation of Castle Rock occurred around 340 million years ago. According to the findings of archaeological digs, people have been inhabiting Castle Rock as far back as 850 BC. On the other hand, when it came time to build the Edinburgh Castle that we are familiar with mostly on hilltop in the 12th century, they rebuilt it exactly on the cap of the volcano's outlet. This is something that we do not know. If the volcano has remained dormant for such a long time, then the designers must have had a high degree of faith that it won't erupt again, right? 2. It holds the record for most sieges carried out in Great Britain. The astonishing number of 23 times that enemy troops have been defeated at Edinburgh Castle makes it the most besieged castle in all of Europe. During the Longshanks siege in 1296, for example, King Edward I pillaged the castle and took all of its wealth to London. This is one of the more notable examples. The garrison that was holding the castle at the time professed their allegiance for Mary, Queen of Scots, which led to the Lang Siege, which lasted from 1571 to 1573 and included resistance against government troops. The last time the stronghold was besieged was during the Jacobite Rising in 1745, when Bonnie Prince Charlie attempted to seize it but was ultimately unsuccessful. Since then, with the exception of the constant influx of visitors, the castle has had a rather calm existence. 3. The oldest structure still standing in Scotland is indeed the Chapel of St. Margaret. As a result of the turbulent history of Edinburgh Castle, the many structures that make up the site date from different eras in the history of Scotland. The construction of St. Margaret's Chapel began in the 12th century, making it the oldest building on the grounds. She was recognised for her devotion to God and passed away only 3 days after finding out that King Malcolm had been killed in combat. She was titled after Queen Margaret, who was the spouse of King Malcolm III of Scots. When Robert the Bruce took control of the fortress in 1314, he preserved this building alone from the demolition he ordered across the rest of the stronghold. 4. For a number of years, the Scottish royal jewels could not be located in the castle. The crown, the sceptre and the sword of state are the 3 components that make up what is referred to as the honours of Scotland. It is the sole set of British insignia to have survived Oliver Cromwell's cleansing of royal insignia and was used in the anointing of Scottish kings. These were worn at the crowning of Scottish rulers. However, following the Union of 1707, that brought Scotland and England together under the rule of a single monarch. The honours were stowed away in a box in Edinburgh Castle and were then lost about something for almost 100 years, until Sir Walter Scott made the discovery of them in 1818. Since that time, they have been on permanent exhibit at the palace, with the only exception of the time period of the Second World War, when they were once again concealed out of concern that they might be taken by the Germans. 5. The spirit of the lone piper may be seen wandering about the castle. It is said that a long time ago, centuries ago, hidden tunnels extending into various districts of Edinburgh were found below the castle. A young piper was sent into the tunnels with the instruction to play his pipes as he moved through them. This allowed those on the surface to create a map of the underground passageways based on the sounds the piper made. However, he stopped playing all of a sudden, and when they went into the tunnels to look for him, they couldn't find any sign of the little piper anywhere. 6. There is a rifle that has maintained accurate timekeeping since 1861. In the days before there were smartphones or Rolexes, seamen on ships travelling across the Firth of Forth would have their ears open for a distinctive rumbling noise emanating from Edinburgh Castle at precisely the same moment every day. This noise could be heard coming from the castle. The shot that was fired from the initial 18-pound cannon could be heard for several miles, and it provided the sailors with the opportunity to correct and recalibrate their chronograph movement to the right time. Even though its use for keeping time is no longer essential, a valued custom requires that a cannon be launched from the castle's battery each and every day. 7. An elephant once called the castle home during its heyday. We're not going to squeeze some joke here, because in 1838, the 78th Highlanders brought a fully grown elephant back to Edinburgh after their extended service in Sri Lanka. The elephant resided in the castle together with his fellow soldiers and eventually became the leader of the infantry division brass band, since the castle served as one of the primary barracks. He also acquired a taste for beer, and legend has it that before going to bed, he would sneak a pint of it into the canteen by sticking his trunk out the window. The National War Museum, which is located on the grounds of the castle, presently has several of his toes on exhibit. 8. The KGB was responsible for the castle's makeover. You are aware of the proverb that says walls have ears, right? The paranoid King James IV of Scotland ordered the construction of tiny holes in the Great Hall of Edinburgh Castle throughout the 16th century so that he might listen in on the talks that took place among his dignitaries. The existence of these holes, which were known as the Laird's Lugs or the Lord's Ears, was a well-kept secret up until the time when Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev intended to visit Edinburgh in 1984. In preparation for his visit to the castle, the KGB requested that the breaches be bricked up before he even arrived in Scotland. This was done in advance of his visit to the castle. The art of espionage is timeless. 9. Throughout its existence, it has been responsible for housing close to 1,000 convicts. Aside from the royal family, the castle was also home to a number of pretty noteworthy people, such as 21 pirates from the Caribbean who were finally found guilty of their crimes and were executed by hanging. Throughout the American War of Freedom, Edinburgh Castle was used to jail a large number of Americans. In fact, during his time in captivity, one of these Americans proudly etched an image of the American flag into the sides of one of the castle's basements. This is widely considered to be the oldest known portrayal of the Stars and Stripes in the annals of history. 10. On the premises of the castle, there is a burial site for canine companions. A little piece of land that has been set aside in honour of the furry friends of Scottish regiments going all the way far to 1840 may be found hidden away off the main route that leads into Edinburgh Castle. These dogs, such as Jess, the cherished emblem of the Black Watch 42nd Highlanders, as well as Dobler, who accompanied the Argyll or even Sutherland Highlanders from China to Sri Lanka, but also South Africa, are indeed being honoured for their devotion and service to the public by being laid to rest on palace premises. This is a tradition that is generally retained only for members of the aristocracy and distinguished soldiers. The cemetery does not allow visitors, although the garden may be viewed from the Argyll Battery, which is located on top of the cemetery. Edinburgh Castle is one of the city's most recognisable landmarks, and even if you're not usually a fan of tourist traps, you have to give it some props for dominating the skyline. Visiting without seeing this would be like skipping out on seeing the Eiffel Tower in Paris, this same Empire State Building in New York City, or Christ the Redeemer at Rio de Janeiro. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment, and turn on the notification bell. This is Learning Canteen.